So thanks all the athletic trainers that have joined. It's our first Friday, June, starting a new month. So these first Fridays are really focused on providing you valuable content to think outside the box, think differently, and really create an opportunity for you that you might not be aware of. If you're part of our community, you understand that we are totally focused on discussing independence over dependence. And what's happened with the change in our profession as a whole has really created the opportunity for the individual who is an athletic trainer to focus on yourself and leverage all of your relationships. So obviously we have tons of relationships with coaches, with parents, with athletes. And that's why bringing on Jeff and Dr. Mitra Ray to discuss how nutrition, how performance health, and how all of our relationships can really provide the most optimal opportunity for our athletes, but possibly put a little money in your pocket. So we're going to listen to Jeff, we're going to talk to and listen to Dr. Mitra Ray discuss what they've learned and how we can really leverage our relationships as athletic trainers. So I'll be here at the end if there's any Q&A, but I'm passing the torch to them, and I'm going to be a fly on the wall just like you guys.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you, Adam. It's good to be here. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy June, everyone. This is an exciting call for me because I've been in this conversation for over 15 years, and I set off early on as one of my professional goals to try to help pull sports nutrition into the 21st century. And so I guess the invitation here for people today is to help people catch up to the train that has left the station. We work with medical professionals, health professionals, fitness professionals, wellness professionals, and the domain of, and we work with a ton of athletes, which we'll talk about. But the domain of athletic professionals is kind of the last man or woman standing, as most of you maybe are employees. And I think what Adam is doing with InnovateAT is fantastic. Athletes, I believe, are entrepreneurs on the field of play, and entrepreneurs are athletes on the field of play of business, just different fields of play. And so that mindset of an athlete to always be looking, always be gaming, always be trying to think how to level up is really the invitation here today. I think in terms of pulling sports nutrition into the 21st century, the good news here is you don't have to be a nutrition professional. You don't have to get a degree. You don't have to get certified. This is really sort of wrapped around some pretty simple things. And at the baseline, it's about helping people execute on what they already know they should be doing, but what they are not doing. So I'll just kind of tell you quickly my story. We'll kind of talk about, why bother, the what, and the how. I'm going to have Mitra sort of bat cleanup with the published efficacy, the data, the science. Here's also another invitation is we've got a tremendous amount of bedtime reading material for you. We have got your back professionally. We stand in the marketplace of ideas with 40 peer-reviewed published studies on what we're going to talk about today across all types of physiology, across institutions. And these are randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, crossover studies, blah, blah, blah. All that to say, the reason we work with so many health, fitness, wellness professionals, and hopefully now athletic professionals, is because of we come from common sense, we help people execute, and we back it up with intellectual rigor and published efficacy. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I think a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was a professional athlete, competed in 2 Olympic Games, 10 years as a pro athlete. And if athletes are anything, they are this. They are ruthlessly practical, and they will do what works. Point number one. After I retired, I went to work in technology, and I learned the power of innovation. And what Adam is trying to do is innovate your brain, innovate your profession, innovate your mindset, innovate your capacity so that you can stand and deliver both on the outcome side and on the income side. And there's 2 kinds of innovation. There's innovation that's incremental, that makes new things, that makes old things better. So if people talk about getting back to normal, if you want to get your normal better, that might be an incremental innovation. But what a lot of people are talking about now is a new normal, a better normal, higher ground. How do I come out stronger in this dip that we're all going through in our world today? And the type of innovation that we want to talk to today is disruptive innovation. And that innovation that I learned in the technology part of my career was disruptive innovations makes new things that makes old things obsolete. They're game changers, right? And if you haven't seen the Game Changers movie, that's your homework. It's just about cramming more plant matter into your body to drive human performance. So the narrative is human performance for eating well, and nutrition and food and diet and all of that. And the game-changing part of this discussion is to kind of go beyond proteins, carbs, and fats to nutrient density. I'm going to bring that to life. So that's the second idea, is disruptive innovation. Ruthlessly practical, I learned in my athletic career. Disruptive innovation, I learned in my technology career. And then in my finance career, I worked in Wall Street. The idea of compound interest, the compounding effect of money. Well, as it turns out, there's a compounding effect to nutrient density. There's a compounding effect over time to cramming more, is what I call matter that matters in your body over time. And it's beyond proteins, carbs, and fats. But that compounding effect in money also works when it comes to food. Food is a weapon. It's a weapon of mass destruction or a weapon of mass vitality. Most athletes tend to approach nutrition with improvisation and frivolity. And we try to bring some rigor to the actually doing the do and getting it done, and what you know you should be doing, but what you're not actually doing. So that's the third pillar, is compounding effect. Ruthlessly practical, disruptive innovation, and the compounding effect. And so I'm going to talk to you about really kind of what we're talking about, the how it works, and then I'm going to have Mitra here back clean up, and I'm going to share my screen right now and take you over to some slides. And if you can, if you can't see that, let me know. Someone pipe in and jump in. But food conditioning, how I present it to people is, are you familiar with food conditioning with plant powders? I'm gonna talk about what plant powders mean here in a moment. Most athletes understand the concept of conditioning, and I bring that mindset or that approach, conditioning, to the concept of food. So food conditioning with plant powders works in any kind of physiology. It works in pregnancy, it works in general wellness, it works in fitness, and it absolutely works in athletic performance. And I call it human performance, and it's really just getting the body to work when you want it to work. And my best example of human performance is pregnancy. You know, it's better circulation for a diabetic. It's more energy, greater recovery for an athlete. And so from the context of food conditioning and nutrient density is really a deeper level discussion when it comes to food. Sports nutrition tends to focus on what's above the water: carbs, proteins, and fats. Macronutrition, calories, a caloric regimen. This is a deeper level, and nutrient density is probably one of the most single important aspects of food when it comes to driving physiological performance. And so what is it? It's everything that is not calories: minerals, vitamins, kind of 20th century terms, and then the 21st century terms: enzymes, antioxidants, pre-probiotics, and this domain of phytochemicals, phytonutrients. What makes whole food so powerful and majestic? It's the nutrient density of the phytonutrient world. And this is a fun sort of juxtaposition between labels of like a multivitamin. You know, a multivitamin label where you look at what's milligrammed and measured on here, and actually what's in an apple. And this is a partial list of the phytonutrients that are in a fresh, whole, clean apple. And so as you can see, there's limitations to labels. Whole food, you can't cram all that stuff on a label. But the nutrient density of just a simple little apple, that's biotechnology at its finest. And what it does to the body is bring the body to life over time. And as you cram more nutrient-dense foods into your body, it conditions physiological results. And whoever you are, it activates stuff in the body, it regulates stuff in the body, it attenuates, protects, or blunts stuff in the body. And Mitra is going to bring some of those things to life. The problem is in the execution. Athletes tend to focus on caloric intake and got to get my protein, got to get my carbs, got to increase my glycogen, got to increase my amino acids and proteins. And low man on the totem pole is eating fruit and veg, because it just doesn't serve that caloric requirement or that high protein requirement that athletes need to eat a little more of. Athletes need to eat a little bit more of everything across the board. And so athletes just don't get it done. And most civilians, as I call them, just average Joe weekend warriors myself, I just don't eat 9 servings of fruits and veg a day. It's a bit of an inconvenient truth. And so enter the idea of some health food using technology and functional food. So the categories we're talking about today in terms of ergogenic aids that can help athletes, help your mom, help yourself, help your kids, whoever, is to pound more plant matter with functional food. In plant powders, in concentrated forms of it, in fruit, vegetables, and berries, and then plant oils. Most people don't know that the plant oil family is where the fish get it from anyway. And so plant powders, this conditioning effect over time, I call it kind of hygienic health food, right? I consider it like brushing my teeth every day. I've been pounding plant powders literally for 20 years. I was introduced to me through my father, made sense to me. I took it to my wife, who was a nutritionist. She kind of poo-pooed it, doesn't want to listen to her husband, but then she actually did her own homework. She actually looked at the efficacy, looked at the common sense of it, saw how it was made, saw the powders. They harvest it, they freeze it, they juice it, they dry it, they mix it. What part of this don't you get? The fruit and vegetable powder stuff, or the encapsulation or in a bag kind of thing. So the brand leader, the Google, the Starbucks, the Nike of the category is the company Juice Plus. Been around 27 years. They've pioneered the category of plant powders and of produce concentrates. Their flagship is a fruit concentrate, a vegetable concentrate, and a berry concentrate, with these particular fruits and vegetables juiced, dried, and crushed into powders, and then rendered in capsule form. And that capsule form gives it an oxygen barrier. 3 things degrade food: time, heat, and oxygen. And so the capsule gives it a bit of a shelf life, prevents oxygen from damaging the matter, the produce, the plant matter. More recently, we've debuted really kind of the global leader in plant omegas. Most people don't know that the omega family has 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9, and you can see the plants we get it from. So kind of in summary, the family of Juice Plus is very focused. It's very tight. It's functional food. It's health food. And it's there to help you get more of that matter that matters across sort of macronutrient with nutrient-dense micronutrition in shake form. That hygienic health food, as I call it, produce concentrates, my daily do, just kind of like brushing your teeth, and then plant oils and omegas. And so, as I said, we have published efficacy that Mitra is going to bring to life that talks about all kinds of aspects of human physiology that relate to human performance, whether it's vascular capacity or inflammation and so forth. It has a compounding effect over time. We know this to be true. And I've seen it play out. When I started pounding plant powders 20 years ago, it didn't mean much in a day and a week and a month. But actually 13, 14, 15 months later, I began to notice a recovery effect. And, if you want faster recovery, if you want to condition the adaptive response physiologically, if you want to build what I call physiological durability, right? Physiological durability has to involve eating more nutrient-dense foods. And Mitra's going to talk about some of these areas of human physiology that we know these plant powders improve and impact. The invitation, if you say, cool, tell me more, that's kind of, we're in the business of cool, tell me more. We have a lot to share with you if you're so inclined. It's NSF Sport certified. We work with professional teams and Olympic athletes all over the world. It is safety first, and it is one of the safest things you're going to put in your body every day. I had the good fortune to enroll all of Team USA volleyball over this past summer, headed into the Tokyo Games, and they're now pounding this stuff daily at the national team level. We work with athletes across all kinds of sport, whether it's aerobic, anaerobic, finesse, skill. I can give you names of all these athletes specifically. We don't pay any of them. They take it because it works. That's why I can't use their names on a commercial level, but if you buy me a beer, I'll tell you all their names here. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mitra. Food conditioning with plant powders to me is standard of care for any modern athlete. As I said, my professional goal is try to help pull sports nutrition in the 21st century and help start, level up. And I'm excited to be working with Adam at InnovateAT. And so with that, sort of the invitation is the body of efficacy, 40 published studies across institutions all over the world. Mitra's going to introduce you to just a few of them. But if you'd like to know more, we can give you PubMed links to all of them, and you can knock your socks off and do your homework, as they say. So with that, I'm just gonna take it off video for 1 second, and I'm going to stop sharing. I'm gonna let Mitra kind of introduce herself, her story, and then I'll pull up the slides again. So Mitra's been my mentor for 20 years. She's a former Stanford biochemist. She had the bravery to step outside academia and get into the commercial space and think like an entrepreneur. And she's been doing that for 20 years. And so she left a prestigious position at Stanford as a research scientist. And she's been in the marketplace of ideas, promoting plant powders and the published efficacy. And it has been my business mentor, my friend, my confidant, my colleague. I call her Yoda. She's got her own cocktail named after her. She's a cool cat. She's smart as a fox. So with that, Dr. Mitra Ray, take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that introduction and also the slides that you shared. Looks like because we're in webinar format, I can share my own slides, so I'll do that. So as Jeff said, actually I've been involved now for going on 26 years. So I put in my time as sharing these plant concentrates and the concept of whole food nutrition with all sectors of society, especially athletes. Worked with a lot of athletes. I was working with Bear Grylls, Man vs. Wild. I was his nutritional consultant for many years, kind of taught him, how to take care of himself. So I've been helping a lot of people, and I raised an elite athlete myself. So with that, I'll just get into some of the research really quickly with you. As Jeff said, there's a lot of research that has been done on this product. I'm going to try to focus on the things that are most relevant for the athlete. So let me share my screen.
And while
here.
you're pulling this up, Mitra, let me just say that Mitra gave a whole webinar on immune system capacity, immune system strength and capacity and functionality to over 8,000 people here, a month or so ago. We have a recording of that. She's not going to talk about that, but immune system is, on top of everyone's mind right now, but we're going to talk about some other things right now. So if you want that, just reach out to Adam or I and we can get you that.
So I wanted to show the slides because it makes the visuals make it a little bit easier to understand. So by now, I'm sure that you have heard about free radicals. And as an athlete, you are going to be burning more oxygen than a couch potato, obviously. And that oxygen is being burned mostly in your mitochondria, which is really the ATP making machinery in the body. And as it does so, it creates free radicals. Now, what is a free radical? Well, if you remember from chemistry, water is H2O, right? But as soon as you add another oxygen which is missing an electron, you get H2O2. H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide. For instance, the immune system uses free radicals as a way to kill parasites such as viruses and unfriendly bacteria in our system. So our immune system can use free radicals as a weapon. However, when we overgenerate free radicals just from the combustion of energy, combustion of fuels of any type, whether it's in your car or whether it's in your body, it creates toxins. And in our body, these are free radicals. So just a simple example is you'd never wash your face with hydrogen peroxide. One little molecular change from H2O to H2O2, and then you use hydrogen peroxide to clean a wound, to kill things. So how it kills things is it breaks down this cell membrane, for instance. It attacks your fat molecules that make up your membrane. It attacks your proteins. It attacks your DNA. It breaks you down molecule by molecule, these free radicals. And so when you're an athlete, you're producing more free radicals, as I said, than when you're just sitting around. So when the recommendation for 7 to 13 servings apply to most people, you have to understand for the athlete, the recommendation is 16 to 18 servings. Now ask yourself, if a serving is a fist size of raw or lightly steamed vegetables, raw fruits and vegetables or lightly steamed vegetables, when was the last time you actually had 16 to 18 servings? As Jeff said, most people are focusing on macronutrients like they're overthinking how much protein they need. Protein is not even a conversation. That's you know, plants have plenty of protein. Most people don't realize that anything that's living has protein, because how things live is using proteins, structural proteins and enzymatic proteins. Enzymes that do work, biological work, whether you're a plant or an animal, is a protein. And structural proteins, whether they're plant structures or animal structures like bones and, you know, ligaments and things like that, they're all made up of proteins. So all living things have proteins. You're never actually protein deprived if you eat plants. The problem is you are deprived of those phytonutrients that he was discussing. Now, I want to show you a little bit of a graph about exercise intensity. We try to get most people that are couch potatoes off the couch because there's something called a J curve. When you're doing little to no exercise, you have some risk of respiratory tract infection. There are certain infection diseases that go up when you do no exercise. When you do moderate amounts of exercise, you bring that way down to baseline almost, but you can overtrain as an athlete and increase your chances of becoming sick. And this is what happens to athletes who overtrain. On the other hand, people who don't exercise at all have a very high risk of cardiovascular disease. And then at moderate exercise, you lower it to almost nothing. And then it starts to increase again when you over exercise. And that's why sometimes you hear, wow, this guy, he was athletically fit, physically fit, but he dropped dead of a heart attack. Why do marathon runners suddenly drop dead of a marathon from a heart attack with no warning signs? And it's because of this accumulated free radical damage. So what can bring this J curve down and reduce your risk on both ends of the spectrum is more of a rainbow colored plant-based diet, because it reduces your free radical damage, because the antioxidants, all those colors also represent a wide variety of antioxidants that protect you. So here's some research with the Graz forces, which are elite forces in Austria. So what you see here, and it's a lot of data, so let me go through it. On the left is, day one, basically, and everybody who is exercising, you've got a placebo group, which is in the red, and you've got the group taking Juice Plus capsules, these plant concentrates that we've been talking about. And what you see is that at baseline, before you start exercising, you see the damage to proteins in your body. Now, these are proteins that shouldn't, there are some proteins that should be broken down in order to rebuild muscle. There are other proteins that should not be broken down. And this is damage to those proteins that should not be broken down. And what happens is immediately after exercise, you see a rise in damaged proteins. 30 minutes after exercise, you see that increase in damage. And then it takes 30 hours for it to come back down to somewhat of a baseline. I'll explain the yellow circles in a second. So let's go over to 28 days of training with these elite forces. And what you see is the baseline before exercise, the placebo group, the red line, already after 28 weeks of exercise, on that day, after 28 weeks, when they're checking them, they have a higher baseline of protein damage compared to the Juice Plus group. So there's been an accumulated damage from 28 weeks of exercise. Then when they do exercise, immediately after exercise, there's damage, but a whole lot more damage than you saw in the beginning of the trial. Whereas the Juice Plus group, basically you're still at baseline, and you don't even see the damage that we saw on day one with the Juice Plus group. So that 28 weeks of taking Juice Plus has protected them from the immediate damage that occurs after exercise. 30 minutes after exercise, you see there's still continued damage because there's still free radicals roaming around in the body. Whereas again, the Juice Plus plant powder group this is the phytonutrients working to protect you. And then again, the 30 hours later, it takes a long time for that damage to come down in the body, whereas the Juice Plus group just stays at a very low level. And the yellow circles, again, are pointing out the difference that has occurred in just the baseline from 0 to 28 weeks later. So this is a startling result that really rocked the world of athletics as far as what plant powders could do. Another thing is that the gentleman who did that study, his name is Dr. Manfred Lamprecht, and he did a search of Medline and PubMed and entire Cochrane library to see, what were there any kind of studies using people who exercise to show improvement in their immune system? Because we talked about, what takes athletes out of the game is injury and illness. If they could train harder or longer, they would do better. So if we can keep them from getting injured or prevent illness, we can help them out so they can train harder. And only one study, there was only one study in the literature, and this was published in a review, and that had to do with these plant powders. This is the only thing that's ever been studied to show improvement in the immune system for athletes. Now, another thing that can happen, I talked about people, people who are athletically fit, like physically fit, but not nutritionally fit, they can have a sudden stroke or a sudden heart attack. And why is that? It's because when you are in the middle of an athletic endeavor, let's say you're biking uphill in a race, okay? At that moment, blood is rushing past your capillaries at a rate of 70 to 90 miles an hour. So when you're really pumping hard, your blood is also pumping hard. It's pumping and it's damaging. That rush of blood, the sheer forces of blood rushing past the walls of your arteries and veins and your capillaries, it can cause a lot of damage. Also, when you are under that kind of pressure, your arteries need to also dilate.
Hey, Mitra?
Yes.
You want to have that next slide up that shows there you go.
Yeah, I was just working on my timing. Thank you.
My bad.
So what we're showing here is exactly that dilation that needs to happen in order for you to pump hard up that hill, or when you're at your maximum capacity as an athlete, we need you to be able to pump hard, and we need that artery to dilate, and we also need to protect the lining of the walls as that blood is rushing past. And this is called endothelium performance. And your endothelium is one of the largest tissues in the body. If we were to basically flatten out all the endothelium in your body, it would take up over 6 tennis courts worth of surface area. So that's a lot of surface area to protect. And if we don't protect it, that's when anybody and everybody can be at risk of heart disease or stroke. So here's a study using the Juice Plus capsules and basically placebo. And one of the ways to challenge your arterial compliance, that vasodilation that I was talking about, is to give you a high-fat meal. For instance, if you were to eat, let's say, anything with animal products in it, anything, just about anything, it doesn't matter, there's no such thing as lean protein. As soon as you, and I really recommend the Netflix movie Game Changers to understand this. As soon as you eat a high-fat meal, you're thinking you're eating a high-protein meal, you're eating an animal-based diet, whether you have a steak, whether you have a hamburger, whether you have lean chicken, whether you have salmon, it doesn't really matter. What will happen is for the next several hours, your arteries will be constricted because of the high fat content of animal-based diet. Any kind of animal protein has 9 times more saturated fat than a plant-based meal. So the plant-based meal will have the omega fats, but the animal-based meal will have 9 times more saturated fat. That's going to present a challenge to your circulatory system. So they use this as a classical model to study arterial compliance. And what you see is in the placebo group, basically a 40% reduction in oxygen flow and circulation. Circulation means also a 40% reduction in oxygen flow and nutrient flow to all the tissues in your body. Now, after taking just the fruit and the veggie blend, what you see is basically there's day 21 and day 28. On day 28, they actually didn't even take Juice Plus. They skipped that day, and still the protection from the first 27 days was protecting them. When you add the Vineyard blend, the berries are especially known to protect your arteries, and then you see pretty much no damage occurring to your arterial compliance from taking these 3 blends. The other thing that really is exciting is our new Omega blend, and there's something called the Omega Index, which is like how fluid are the membranes of your red blood cells? Do they have enough omega fat in them? So the way your cells work is the cell membrane, if it's very rigid because it has too much saturated fat in it and not enough omega fat in it, it's very rigid. So all the beautiful molecules, your cell membrane should be dancing. It should really be fluid and dancing so the molecules can do what they need to do. The receptors that live on your cells can move about freely, they can bind, they can flow. So we want compliance also in our cell membranes to be fluid. And your omega index is a measure of how stiff that membrane is. And if you have stiff, for instance, cell membranes on your red blood cells, that means you've got hardening red blood cells to begin with, and not to mention the beginning of plaques. So here you see baseline using a control placebo group. Then you've got the orange is just taking 2 of our omega capsules, which I consider a child's dose. Taking 2 of each of the fruit, veggie, berry, and omega blend is the green. And then the yellow is taking 2 and 2, like 4 omega blends, omega capsules a day. And after 16 weeks, we see that, yes, taking the omegas does increase your omega index. Now, you can also accomplish this with fish oils. The only backdraw to fish oils is, besides the environmental implications and the sustainability issues, is that fish oils can actually increase, it has been shown that fish oils can increase the risk of prostate cancer by over 70%. Most men don't know this. They take fish oils, but it's a high dosage of EPA and DHA, which is not really natural in nature. Whereas the omegas is a blend of all the different omegas found in our omegas, our plant omegas are a blend of all the omegas found in nature from 6 different plant sources. And so this is phenomenal research. It's kind of groundbreaking research that we can get your omega index up to very high standards, especially if you take a double dose here, with half the dosage of the typical fish oils of EPA and DHA that are out there in half the time. So half the dosage, half the time gives you the results without the risk of prostate cancer. And the other thing I want to say about prostate cancer is that while fish oil increases your risk of prostate cancer, there's pomegranate oils and pomegranate pulp have been shown to reduce your risk of prostate cancer. Well, our omegas have pomegranate omegas from pomegranate, the oils from the pomegranate, and our berry blend has the pulp of the pomegranate. So you're going to get the reduction, you're going to get the omega index with a reduced risk rather than with an increased risk. So that's kind of an exciting result as well to share. So that's just a little bit about the efficacy of the products. Again, there's 42 studies. I'd be here all day if I were to continue to explain more, but hopefully that gives you some idea of the high standard of research that is represented for this product.
Let me transition just a little bit to say, really, sort of the intention, of Adam and InnovateAT is to help expand your capacity on, to help people get better outcomes and improve your professional income. So, from the standpoint of the money conversation, money makes people funny. That's a whole other webinar. But look, we want to help you be well paid as a professional. And as I said, Mitra and I have worked with medical, health, wellness, fitness professionals for 20 plus, 25 plus years. And athletic professionals are sort of that last man standing. When I got into it, The product made immediate sense to me just as a consumer, no brainer. I had some resistance, some intellectual ignorance around the business. I did not know what I didn't know. So the invitation is to come and learn and be enlightened. The stereotypes that I had were proven wrong. Let me say this: when you hear the word game changers and you hear the word plants, this is not about being a vegan. This is not about being a vegetarian. This is about helping your patients, your people, those you love, yourself, cram more plant matter into your body, period. With the understanding that compounded over time, it's physiologically going to make a difference, right? There is no such thing as overtraining. Only under recovery. Like, that's a Yoda quote right there. So that came from Dr. Alan Lim, who works with the Tour de France athletes. No such thing as overtraining, only under recovery. And the recovery response has to do with nutrient density. So change, here's the thing with change. We're in the world of change right now. Change is happening. Change is, how do we get out of this and come out strong? Change begins, breakthroughs begin with a change in belief. And one person with belief is worth more than 99 who only have interest. So if you're kind of intrigued, you want to know more, that's great. But it's about driving better outcomes and driving professional income. So there is a business here. It is available, and you can reach out to myself and Adam, and we can have that conversation. It's real money. I've been full-time in this for 15 plus years. Mitra's been full-time for 25 plus years. We cash the checks every month. It's real money. So with that, I'll hand it over to Adam, and we're more than happy to spend some time with the Q&A.
And one other thing I want to add to that, I can't say that it's been full-time for me. It's been part-time effort, full-time income, because the products work so well.
Very part-time, full-time income. So this is not about cannibalizing what you're up to. This is about leveling up, and 1 + 1 = 3. But Mitra and I both work very part-time. And here's the invitation: put our ass to work for you.
And I think that's the highlight for the athletic trainers. We have a balance that we have to maintain from a kind of a professional standard, that we're supposed to be working within our scope of practice and really promoting the health of the athlete first, not our personal income, right? And so that's just based on our licensure within the states that we are in. So I think there's this balance that we're trying to overcome of, I know I have these relationships and they already exist, and I know these athletes need better sports nutrition in their body, but how do I make that introduction to where I'm not putting myself at a liability professionally? So I think your point of let you guys do some work for us, if any of you athletic trainers are able to just get on the phone with either of them to understand how they can help you, they're going to educate you and empower you on how to take that conversation. And then when like the sales side comes in, they might be able to really take it off of your plate, but you made that connection for like you and your family and your athletes. But don't think that you have to do everything. They're there to help you. They're there to talk to your coaches and your athletic directors and families if there's any interest. But that's really what we need to understand, is even though we're held under a professional standard, there's still an opportunity to be financially successful because of the Rolodex that we've all built throughout our professional career. And I just know that Adam, we let that go to waste. Yeah.
May I say something on that?
Yeah.
Just in regards to the professional standard?
Yeah.
I mean, doctors have a professional standard. Nutritionists have a professional standard. Personal trainers have it. Gym owners have, RDs have a RNs have a, PAs, PTs, they all have professional standards. And so if you're locked into this mindset, it's like, how do I take this to this Uber athlete? I mean, you need to think a little bit bigger. Maybe that's like, what about my neighbor? What about my mom? What about my uncle? What about this community that I roll in? Maybe you have a limitation in your employee work in terms of bringing your entrepreneurial capacity right there at the point of sale. We're in the business of education. We do quite well when we are able to enlighten and empower people to make buying decisions. Sales is a whole other sort of brain damage, mental blah, blah. We're trying to help people with intellectual rigor and common sense execute. So in regards to professional standards, we work with all kinds of health professionals, and ethically, once you know what you know, a lot of doctors we work with feel like they have a professional responsibility and obligation to impart the education to the people that we work with. So I hope that helps you a little bit.
No, that does help. Two things just while you're talking. If you guys have any questions and you don't want to speak for whatever reason, maybe you're busy, maybe you're uncomfortable, you can put the Q&A in the chat function, the question and answer section, and we'll discuss your question. And then the secondary part of what you were mentioning, just that it had me thinking, is I just blanked it.
And while you're thinking, if you do want to ask a question with audio, you just got to take yourself off mute, and then the video is not on, but the audio, you just got to take yourself off mute, and you can ask a question via voice.
No, this is what I was going to say. As athletic trainers, and I say this all the time, so if you're close to the veil, you're going to hear this from me all the time. Our two major complaints within the profession of athletic training are A, I don't make a lot of money, and then B, I'm overworked. And if I ask any of you, when was the last time someone asked you for advice? And it can range from an injury to this conversation, hey, what supplement should I go get? We are the problem. Everyone else in our entire sphere around us understands our value. And that is why they constantly ask us for that advice about what they should do. So this call today is really focusing in on when people are asking you for advice, don't give it away for free. This product, right, and this education around how sports nutrition can advance their athletic career, everybody wins. So that goes into Jeff's point is we need to get this like, oh, we can't talk about sales. I'm not a salesman. You're not a salesman. You're an educator. And if somebody wants to get better, they have to invest in that product or service to get better. And this is one of those opportunities that you guys are already having the conversations. Let Jeff, let Dr. Mitra really help you and teach you and empower you on how to turn that from, hey, I'm giving out free advice to now this is a couple dollars in my bank account. Now it's a couple $100s in my bank account. And you're starting to build wealth through your expertise. And we all know the profession of athletic training has a ceiling. We're creating an opportunity that you personally don't have a ceiling, but you're using the profession and your experience and your education as the foundation to do amazing things. And that's really the whole purpose of what InnovateAT is about, is how do you guys take it to the next level? And that's why I'm excited that Jeff's involved and Dr. Mitra is really supportive. I think we'll do more of these presentations to really understand the clinical and science background behind what it is. And then whichever athletic trainers want to take it to the next level, they can. But no matter what, you guys are learning more about the science and education, how nutrition and diet can really improve athletic performance, and which is also valuable.
I would like Mitra to say just a thought or two just on the professional ethics and because she's worked, as she said, for 25 plus years with health professionals, fitness professionals, athletic professionals. And so I think let me also just sort of tee up Mitra's comments is, you know, as an athletic professional to civilians, you've got game. Like you're up to something. Like you know what you like you're viewed by the public as someone who knows probably a lot about physiology and the body and health and fitness and getting better to higher ground. And it may be your uncle, your neighbor, you know, your fellow church member, your athletic recreational partner, or like whatever. Like, so think beyond just maybe the D1 or the pro athlete or you're talking to right now. Like, what about the rest of your life? And so with that, maybe Mitra, comment just on, you know, over the years, that ethical sort of, you know, conversation about this is an abundant minded conversation versus a scarcity conversation.
Yeah. I just want to share my personal story with you. I was raised as a Bengali, I was born in India. I was raised as a Bengali intellectual. That meant everything other than money was important. Education, art, culture, anything and everything other than money was important. And I was literally brought up thinking that people who made a lot of money obviously did it by taking advantage of other people. It was just this unknown bias that I had. And I was resigned to be a researcher and not live an extravagant life. And I was fine with that. It wasn't like I was suffering by any means. I had a great life as a researcher. I got to live in a beautiful place like, you know, Stanford, Palo Alto, you know, on a limited budget, mind you. There were times I had some financial stresses, but it wasn't consuming me. And I wasn't looking for a business opportunity. When these plant concentrates fell into my lap, it woke me up because of the results that I got. I had an injury from actually body surfing on the Jersey Shore as a kid that came back to haunt me as I was hovering over a microscope daily, and also wearing these really heavy, back in the day, infrared goggles, working in the dark. And so what happened is my neck got worse and worse and worse, and I was spending hundreds of dollars on physical therapy that I didn't have, and I was buying ibuprofen in bulk. And I had started a juicing regimen trying to get healthier myself. I was always very active, and my activity level kept going down. And I was walking the halls with Nobel laureates. And when it came to take care of my own health, I couldn't find the answers I was looking for at Stanford Medical School. So that gives you an idea of the level of education people had about plant nutrients 25, 26 years ago. And then I started a juicing regimen. And that's when somebody brought me a brochure on this product, comparing it to juicing back then. They didn't have 42 clinical studies. And I'm the one that really got the company to start looking at doing clinical research. But when I came into it, I just started taking it because I saw that it was going to be cheaper than juicing and faster than juicing. And I understood the technology existed. In fact, when I saw the brochure, I thought this should have been my idea, because I was juicing in the lab and using the same technology juicing it in my kitchen, excuse me, and using the same technology in the lab. And I just hadn't put kitchen and lab together. So I decided to try it. Most people may not have understood how can you put fruits and veggies in a capsule, but I got it immediately. And I did some of my own testing to see if they had done it right. I knew it was possible, but then my question was, did they do it right and with high standards? And then what happened is my neck stopped spasming, and I stopped taking ibuprofen. I didn't even realize it. And then my physical therapist said to me, "What are you doing differently?" And I realized that the inflammation in my neck was because I had systemic inflammation in my gut. And that took a lot of learning, a lot of self-learning to figure out what was going on. So I started to go down this other path. And when I realized what was going on with this product, I gave it to my mom. She got off of blood pressure medication pills, which I was really worried about her taking those. And on it went. And then I realized I'd be remiss if I didn't share this with people. This is ridiculous for me to not tell people, look, you can up your fruit and vegetable intake, do the best you can with your diet. But here's a way. I mean, nobody's eating 50 plants a day out there. Nobody I know. And I am now pretty much a plant-based eater, but I don't eat 50 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Whereas using these products, that's my baseline before I even start the day. I start off with 50 plants. The protection there is unbelievable. So I had to learn something called self-worth. And I think that's really what Adam's program is about, is understanding your self-worth. Now, self-worth is actually a financial term I've come to understand. And this was a game changer for me in my mind, that what is your self-worth? What are you worth? If you were to put a dollar value on your hourly, what are you worth hourly? And I realized the education I had and the information that I had and the tool that I had with these plant powders, that was worth a lot of money, because there's a recent study that's been done showing that they did a study to show if everyone in the United States had been taking these plant powders for the last 10 years, how much money would we have saved in heart disease? And we would have saved over $190 billion, and we would have prevented over 60 million heart attacks. This is a third-party study. We would have saved over 60 million heart attacks, and it saved $192 billion. So then I realized that I was worried about what people thought of me as a scientist. You're not supposed to make money. You're supposed to be a slave to science. If there was ever a profession where you're supposed to be poor and work harder than 18-hour days, 14 to 18-hour days average, and never think about money, science was it. And I realized, wow, my self-worth, I'm not worth much. I am not worth much. As a graduate student, they gave me, my stipend was, of course, my tuition and all that, but just $8,800 to live in a place like Palo Alto, California. Then when I became a research fellow, it was $25,000 a year. That's a ridiculous amount of money to live on. And yet I was supposed to be happy with that. And these are the paradigms that we live into. As Jeff said, like, It doesn't matter what your profession is. This thing about ethics, hopefully, if you're a decent human being, you have high ethical standards. But if you have a tool in your hand, like these plant powders with 42 clinical studies, whereas most people are spending so much money on ridiculous vitamin supplements that don't work, or they're taking medication as athletes that isn't helping them and causing side effects sooner or later. You know, it's ridiculous to not help people save money and save their health. But that takes time. You have to work on your belief system first. So I think that starts with using the products yourself first and using it with your family, then starting to share it with other people. And once you start to see that this really is what we're saying it is, once you start to gain that belief, hopefully you'll be at this place of, number one, realizing, like I realized, that I'd be remiss not to share it. And number two, what is my self-worth? So I ask you this, I will leave you with this question. Have you thought about what are you worth per hour? What is an hour's worth of work from you and your expertise that you've gained? Have you ever put a dollar value to that as to what you think you're worth, not what the world thinks you're worth? Where do you value yourself? Are you working at like sub-minimal wage levels, giving out free advice? And what is that actually doing to your actual authority at the end of the day? And I realized the more I was willing to sit with a higher self-worth value for myself, people started to listen to me even more diligently. My voice became more influential when my own self-worth became more influential. So this is the thought I want to leave you with, is if you can figure out how to increase your self-worth, you will increase your value, you will feel better about yourself, and you will have much more influence in the world.
Thank you, Mitra. That's fantastic. We did have actually one question, just kind of at a tactical level, getting into the, like, how do you make this stuff? And it's from Sarah. And she asked, you know, what are your thoughts on actually juicing fruits and vegetables? And how do you get these plant powders with functionally no calories? Like, can you like help the brain get their head around that? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things that is really unique about this product is when you juice, you get rid of the fiber, which makes it a high glycemic load. Then basically the juice, you get the phytonutrients, but you don't get the fiber. And so what happens is it raises your blood sugar a little too quickly. Vegetable juices less so than fruit juices, but nonetheless, juicing, even carrots, is too much sugar for your blood too quickly. It's one thing if you're, stage 4 cancer patient who can't eat and you're starting there, but for most athletes, juicing is not a great idea. You want to blend it. You want the pulp, you want the fiber, because the fiber is good food for your good bacteria. And that's a whole other talk that I do. I'm happy to do that for you some other time, but it's really important for us to get the fiber and these other starches that are found in food. The other thing with these products is that they use the entire plant. For instance, when you eat an orange, it's a little bit, people say fruits have higher sugar content. Why? Because we're not eating the skin of the orange. If we were to eat the skin of the orange with that orange, your blood sugar would not go up at all. It still doesn't go up much at all because there just aren't that many calories in an orange or a banana. So fruits get a bad rap because they say it's too much sugar, but there just isn't enough calories there for it to be consequential. However, if you were to eat it with the rind, then there's almost no sugar impact in the body because the fiber is really slowing down the entry of sugar in the blood. And there are more nutrients and fiber, obviously, in the skin of the orange than the orange itself. We as human beings, we don't eat like primates anymore. We eat the juiciest parts of the fruits, the best tasting parts, and we throw away the stalks of the broccoli. We throw away the greens of the carrots. Juice Plus includes all of that. So what happens is, a little bit of this crushed up powder has virtually no sugar in it because it's mostly fiber, because you're getting the entire plant. That means you're getting a wider range of plant nutrients because, the leaves of a carrot have, the greens of a carrot have a different nutrient profile than the carrot itself. And so you're getting a richer variety of nutrients, much more fiber, and absolutely no sugar impact. So the capsules are just a few calories, which hardly is enough sugar to make any kind of sugar impact in the body. And that's another reason why they're so incredibly beneficial. You cannot eat the nutrient content found in these vegetables and fruit and berry powders. The variety is difficult to get to begin with. And then on top of that, you're not eating the parts, you're not eating the core of the pineapple, which has great anti-inflammatory enzymes. And I saw another question about systemic inflammation, and I don't have the slides prepared for this talk, but maybe we can do this another day, Adam. There are actually 5 clinical studies showing how it, 4 clinical studies showing how it reduces systemic inflammation markers, because it affects your epigenetics. So genetics is, your DNA is one thing, but your epigenetics is your lifestyle factors, sleep, exercise, but most importantly, nutrition. Nutrition turns on certain good genes, and Juice Plus affects more than 1,600 genes that have to do with metabolism and systemic inflammation. So we have, we'll have to do that in more detail on another day, but that's just sort of the summary of it.
Yeah, let me just kind of put a red ribbon on that. Is we are a resource-rich company. We have a tremendous amount of education. Mitra does a whole microbiome talk. She does a whole immune system talk and inflammatory talk, published efficacy and all of that. So this is really an invitation to pique your curiosity, say, cool, that makes sense. I want to know more. And the I want to know more part is connecting with Adam and connecting with me. And Adam knows my number and he knows how to get a hold of me. So.
Yeah, and we're going to do more.
Yeah.
For all the different reasons, not just the financial aspect, but I mean, we're starting to get into the science, and like you both mentioned, we're professionals, and we are looked at as the resource, as the authority within the community. So I think we really need to start talking more about how to integrate some of these resources. And this is really important for the athletic trainers to hear. When Dr. Mitra was talking about how people are spending money on medication, they're spending money on other supplements, it's not even a sales conversation anymore. It's about redirecting the money they're already spending in a more appropriate way. And that goes into, we are the authority and they're looking at us for advice. So if we tell them, well, it's nice that you went to GNC to buy XYZ, but this product might yield greater return, they're just going to take their money they're already spending and buying a better product. And that's really where I think we can start to dive in to help you guys really, really be successful, because they all ask us those type of questions. So that'll be some of the stuff that we'll integrate moving forward. But overall, I think it's great that Sarah asked the question. There's actually one more question that just came in, if we want to look at it.
Yeah, I think Todd asked about an immune system chat. And Mitra did a whole webinar, I think 6 weeks ago. We had over 8,000 attendees on a live Zoom chat. And we can get you that immune system chat, immune system live webinar that we did. We've got, again, published studies on immune system function. So again, we've got a lot of bedtime reading material, as I say. We'll get those resources to Adam, and he can distribute them out to the people who attended and so forth. But great question.
I'll leave it at this. If any of you guys that are listening, if you want Jeff just to reach out to you with more of those clinical research studies, or to start a conversation with him, just leave your email and he'll follow up with you, or leave your phone number. But after that, I think we'll create a game plan about integrating more of this information moving forward. Hopefully we can have Dr. Mitra do a couple presentations, either live, or if there's stuff that you guys have already recorded, we can throw that up into our academy and our resource hub so these athletic trainers have access to it all the time.
And Adam, I'll just leave everyone with my email. You can reach out to me at Jeff Olson. .info is my website, but my email, it's lowercase, it's health food agency at gmail.com. So healthfoodagency@gmail.com, or connect with Adam, CC Adam anyway, connect with Adam, and possibility occurs in a conversation. That's where it all begins. So I want to thank everyone for their time, and back to you, Adam. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, with that, guys, let's enjoy June. There's a lot of fun and exciting stuff that's coming down the pipe. So keep your eyes and ears open. And with that, have a good weekend. Thanks, guys, for the presentation. We'll talk to everybody soon.